12,000 years ago, on a lonely hill in Turkey, a group of people achieved the impossible. With no written language, no metal tools, and no knowledge of farming, they erected a monument so vast and complex it defies belief. Göbekli Tepe. Its massive stone pillars, older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids, are covered in intricate carvings of animals, abstract shapes, and enigmatic figures that have baffled the world's greatest minds for decades. These symbols are a message from a lost world, a code we have been unable to crack. But what if a new kind of mind, one unbound by human bias and capable of seeing patterns invisible to our eyes, could finally read it? Today, the silent stones have begun to speak. Quantum artificial intelligence has been unleashed on the mystery of Göbekli Tepe, and what it has decoded is beyond belief. This isn't just about rewriting a chapter of human history. It's about uncovering a warning left for us by the survivors of a global cataclysm. To understand the magnitude of this breakthrough, we must first understand the shockwave the discovery of Göbekli Tepe sent through the scientific world. For generations, the story of civilization was a simple, linear progression. First, humans learned to farm. Agriculture allowed them to abandon their nomadic, hunter-gatherer lifestyles and settle in one place. This stability led to villages, which grew into towns, and eventually great empires. In this clean, established narrative, farming was the key, the single innovation that unlocked settled life, complex society, and monumental architecture. But in 1996, deep in southeastern Turkey, a discovery turned that entire comfortable idea on its head. A German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt began a full excavation of a hill that had been noted decades earlier but dismissed as insignificant. What he unearthed was not a settlement but a series of immense ceremonial stone circles. At their center stood monolithic T-shaped pillars, some weighing as much as 20 tons, their surfaces covered in intricate carvings of snarling boars, coiled snakes, and predatory foxes. The most stunning part was the age. Radiocarbon dating placed the construction of these structures at over 12,000 years ago, thousands of years before the invention of pottery, writing, or even the pyramids of Giza. This was a profound contradiction. The builders were hunter-gatherers, people who supposedly lived a precarious, hand-to-mouth existence. How could a society of people constantly on the move build something so vast, so organized, and so artistically sophisticated? Göbekli Tepe was proof that our ancient ancestors were far more advanced than anyone had ever imagined. It suggested a revolutionary idea, that it was a shared, complex belief system, a religion that first brought people together to cooperate on a massive scale. The Great Temple came before the Great City. The shared idea came before agriculture. But this revolutionary discovery left us with an even bigger puzzle. What did these strange, often aggressive animal carvings mean? Why were the T-shaped pillars themselves anthropomorphic, with hands, arms, and even belts carved into their sides, as if they were stylized stone giants? Were they totems representing different tribes? Were they shamanistic symbols for communing with animal spirits? Or were they something entirely else? For decades, researchers could only guess. They were staring at a message written in a language for which there was no key, no Rosetta Stone. Conventional archaeological methods had hit a wall, limited by the sheer volume of data and the inherent biases of the human mind. The most famous of these puzzles is a pillar designated Pillar 43, known to the world as the Vulture Stone. Its surface is a complex tableau of carvings, a prominent vulture, a scorpion, other animals, and, most unnervingly, a headless human figure. For years, scholars have debated its meaning. Was it a depiction of a sky burial ritual where vultures carry the soul of the deceased to the heavens? Was it a primitive map of the surrounding lands, or a record of a tribal conflict? Theories even emerged that handbag symbols seen on this pillar and others were evidence of ancient alien visitors, a testament to how far conventional explanations had failed. The mystery was locked. What was needed was not another human guess, but a mind that could see the entire system at once, a mind without limitations that could perceive the hidden patterns. This is where a new form of archaeology was born. To crack the code, researchers first created a perfect digital twin of the entire site. Using laser-based LiDAR and high-resolution 3D scanning, they captured every single nook, cranny, and carving on every pillar. This process generated a massive, intricate database, the perfect data set for a new kind of brain to analyze. Scientists unleashed advanced computer vision algorithms and deep learning neural networks on this digital copy. The goal was not to ask the machine what the carvings meant, but something much more fundamental: to find the relationships, the hidden syntax, connecting every symbol across the entire complex. A human expert might notice a boar and a snake on the same pillar and assume it's a random or purely mythological pairing, but the AI could cross-reference that pairing with every other carving at the site in seconds. It could discover that the boar always appears near a specific abstract symbol, or that the snake's position consistently changes relative to the orientation of the pillar itself. It could find correlations between a carving on one side of a stone circle and another 100 yards away in a different enclosure, a connection impossible for the human brain to reliably track. The data was no longer just a list of animal pictures, it was a blueprint. And as the AI began to process it all, the first shocking results started to emerge. The patterns were not random. They weren't just a collection of sacred animals. The analysis revealed a stunning, statistically undeniable correlation. The animal carvings were a detailed map of the night sky. The animals were not just animals, they were constellations. The AI identified consistent patterns where a fox carving would appear in the place of what we now call the star system for Sirius, and a scorpion would be found in the location of the constellation Scorpio. This was a revelation of staggering importance. Gobekli Tepe was not just a temple, it was a sophisticated celestial observatory built by hunter-gatherers to track the precise movements of the stars. This new cosmic key brought the infamous vulture stone into sharp, terrifying focus. For years, scholars had seen it as a bizarre death ritual. But the AI's analysis revealed a perfect one-to-one matchup with the positions of the constellations in our sky on a very specific day, a day over 12,800 years ago. And that date lines up almost exactly with one of the most violent periods in recent geological history, the Younger Dryas Impact Event, a time when fragments of a disintegrating comet are believed to have slammed into the Earth. This cataclysm triggered a sudden, brutal return to Ice Age conditions, causing widespread floods, mass extinctions, and global chaos. The vulture stone was not a ritual. It was a history book. It was a permanent, immutable record of a world-shattering catastrophe, a day of fire and darkness that its builders witnessed, survived, and painstakingly recorded for all time. This single discovery completely changes how we view these ancient people. They weren't just surviving day to day. They were astronomers, scientists, and historians with a deep understanding of the cosmos, capable of recording a specific disaster with chilling astronomical precision. But the AI's analysis didn't stop there. The record of the past was also a key to unlocking an even more profound message. If Gobekli Tepe was built to commemorate a catastrophe, what else was it trying to say? The AI didn't just find a history, it found a warning. The revelation that Gobekli Tepe was a celestial observatory, a permanent record of a cosmic impact, was a quantum leap in our understanding of the ancient world. But the quantum AI's analysis of its intricate symbols went deeper. It didn't just find a single isolated record of the past, it uncovered a complex, repeating narrative about a series of recurring global cataclysms. The symbols, when analyzed as a complete system, showed a pattern of multiple cycles and subcycles, suggesting the builders weren't just reacting to a one-time disaster, they were documenting a rhythm. It became chillingly clear that these early people understood that the universe was not a benign, unchanging backdrop, but a dynamic and often dangerous environment. They believed the world passed through a series of great cleansings, and they built Göbekli Tepe not just as a memorial, but as an eternal message in stone, a warning for those who would come after. This new idea completely reframes the entire purpose of the monument. It wasn't built for simple worship or celebration, but as an urgent response to an existential threat. This was a project born of trauma and a deep-seated concern for the future of humanity. This theory even explains one of Göbekli Tepe's other great mysteries, why it was deliberately and carefully buried. For thousands of years, the enclosures were meticulously backfilled with earth and stone, entombing the great pillars. This was not an act of abandonment, but an act of preservation, a way to ensure their time capsule, their critical warning, could survive the next great disaster that they knew was coming. The entire site was a message in a bottle, cast into the deep ocean of time. But how could a society of hunter-gatherers, living at the dawn of the Neolithic Age, possess such sophisticated astronomical knowledge? Two primary theories have emerged. The first, and most speculative, is a modern take on the Atlantis theory. In this serious context, it suggests the builders of Göbekli Tepe may have been the survivors of or heirs to a more advanced predecessor civilization that was almost completely wiped out by the Younger Dryas cataclysm. This lost culture would have possessed a sophisticated understanding of science and engineering, and passed their knowledge down to the nomadic tribes who found them. While direct archaeological proof is scarce, a global disaster would have likely erased most of its traces. It's an idea that continues to fascinate. A second, perhaps more plausible idea is that the knowledge was simply inherited and accumulated over millennia. For thousands of years, nomadic people lived their lives outdoors under a pristine, unpolluted night sky. They would have paid incredibly close attention to its rhythms. They would have noticed the slow, predictable cycles of the constellations and the sudden violent disruptions from comets and meteors. This deep, instinctive knowledge of the cosmos could have been passed down through oral traditions, myths, and sacred symbols from one generation to the next. The people of Göbekli Tepe simply found a way to make that ancestral knowledge permanent, carving their sacred understanding into stone so it would last forever. Regardless of where the knowledge originated, the builders' intent seems clear. This was not a simple, primitive society carving rocks. This was a culture deeply concerned with the survival of their species. They created Göbekli Tepe as an archive, a safe house for critical information designed to ensure that a cosmic warning would survive for thousands of years. As this discovery opens up a deeper philosophical well, other questions begin to spring up. Is this just a record of history, or is it proof of a consciousness that saw time in cycles, not straight lines? Modern thinking is often very linear. We see time as a straight arrow, with a clear beginning, a present, and an end. The people who built Göbekli Tepe saw things differently. Their symbols, with their repeating cycles of destruction and renewal, point to a mind that saw time as a great, repeating circle. They did not see themselves as separate from nature or the cosmos. They saw themselves as active participants in a vast cosmic drama. The symbols weren't just drawings on a stone, they were a form of communication with the universe. With this new understanding, the ceremonies held at Gobekli Tepe take on a whole new meaning. They likely weren't about praying to a passive god in the sky, but were active rituals of observation, designed to track the heavens, predict future events, and perhaps, through their actions, help keep the universe in balance. The success of the quantum AI project at Gobekli Tepe has completely changed the future of archaeology. This new method of using computer vision and neural networks to find hidden patterns and syntax can now be applied to other prehistoric sites around the globe. And the discoveries are already expanding. For a long time, archaeologists believed Gobekli Tepe was one of a kind. But over the last few years, a whole network of similar sites has been discovered in the same region, all sharing the same T-shaped pillars and ancient carvings. These sister sites have been given the name the Stone Hills. This suggests Gobekli Tepe was not an isolated project, but the capital, the epicenter of a much larger, highly organized cultural network. The most famous of these new sites is Karahan Tepe. It has the same T-pillars and circular enclosures, but also unique features, like a chamber with human statues carved directly into the bedrock, and pillars featuring the same vulture and snake motifs seen at Gobekli Tepe. Using the same AI models, researchers are already finding symbolic connections between these different sites. The fact that the same cosmic language appears in multiple locations proves the builders were part of a widespread culture that shared a common, urgent knowledge. This network of ceremonial centers may have been a way for these ancient people to pool their knowledge and resources, a collaborative effort to survive the dramatic changes happening in their world. With every new site analyzed, the picture of this lost, high-minded civilization becomes clearer. They have left us a legacy, a mystery, and perhaps a warning. The only question is, are we finally ready to listen?